Let's get started. This is week two of the series called Tikvah or Hope. I felt like this was important, but I want to start with a story, something that hopefully will resonate and it makes sense as we think about the topic of hope. Imagine you're living in an environment or you're at a part of your life where you lose everything: financial stability, family, relationships, job, everything just crumbles at your feet. There is nothing that you can do about it. There is absolutely no way to stop this train wreck of situations and circumstances that all of a sudden just hit your life. What would you do? What, how would you deal with experiencing a part of your life in which everything that was important to you collapsed? One of the things I found when that happened to my life and I started this journey into understanding hope is that hope is very powerful. It's vital that you do have hope. For example, when I was playing football in high school, in my junior year, I had an injury. I tore up my ankle, all this kind of stuff. Ended up to have screws in my ankle. I remember when the incident occurred. I played for a pretty competitive football team where you work your way up the ranks to start, and then all of a sudden you have an injury. I remember this injury occurring. The coach said, just get him off the field. They carted me off. I remember going to the hospital. There was excruciating pain. The doctor said, the only way we're going to stop this, we got to have surgery on your ankle. I remember having to go to surgery, getting screws on my ankle, and then the reality that I was going to miss a whole season of playing football. One of the things that I really learned, and it's applicable to the season of my life when I started writing the book Tikvah, and it was applicable when I was in high school and I had this injury. The hardest part of life is dealing with the aftermath of destruction and your response to it. When I worked at Tikva, it was adult life issues and problems that I had to rebuild from. It wasn't the collapsing of everything, it was the aftermath that has been and will be the hardest part of how you move forward. The reason why I felt like hope this series is important is because all of us are experiencing, have been through, or are going through the dismantling of a lot of stuff in our lives. It could be family, it could be financial, it could be life, it could be what be anything that exists in our life. It's not the bombardment that's the hard part to deal with. It's the aftermath. What happens when you lose it all? What happens when you have to go through a process? Let me give you a couple of things that I learned along the way, and I'm gonna tie this into hope. When I hurt my ankle and I had to get surgery, the first phase was to heal. I faced the reality that I was going to lose playing that season, but most importantly, I had to heal. Life and hope, and we're talking about people having hope. Hope is not wishful thinking. There was a reality that when I broke my ankle or when the trauma of life hit me, I had to heal. Healing requires you to sit down and evaluate whatever it is that you're dealing with. Most people act like the trauma didn't happen. I had to face the reality that it did happen, and then I had to go through the process of healing. And the doctor says I'm healed, everything looks good. They had to put me in a cast. The healing process causes you to constrain your life. Everything got a little bit frustrating because I had to go through the healing process. But then once I bypassed the healing process, meaning everything was joined together, I had to go through rehab. I had to train that ankle to regain all of its movements prior to the traumatic events. I want you to follow me because I'm going to apply this to hope. I had to retrain my ankle because it was constrained during the process of healing. Once I was healed, meaning all the elements in my ankle had joined together, I had to rehab it, putting pressure on it to get the flexibility and mobility back. Even after I went through rehab and I got the mobility back, I had to go through recovery. Recovery was building on top of the healing process. Once I recovered and could run a little faster, I had the ability to rebuild. Most of us get caught up in not handling the healing. We don't take our rehab seriously and we play games with our recovery, so we never get to the point of rebuilding. In real life, it was a relationship healing I had to deal with. But in the relationship healing, you have to go through the healing process. What do people think about me? The judgment, the fear, the intimidation, the lack, the, the feelings and the emotions. Healing from that. Then I had to rehab. Then I had to trust again, to trust myself, to trust others, to trust opportunities again. I had to put myself in a position to move. Often dealing with the shame that came with the original injury. So I'm healing, then I have to rehab, trust again, then I have to fully recover. What does that mean? I have to not only get mobility back, but I have to put myself where I fully got full circle, right? Most of us don't handle our rehab right and we don't recover. What does recovery means? That it brings you back to the place of which you lost. That means you haven't gone forward, you have recovered. Then, based upon that, you can rebuild. But most of us get caught up in phases of life and it causes us not to move forward. So, how did I go from healing through rehab to recovery to building? I had to have hope. Hope or tikva is the actions by which your faith is expressed. I had faith that I was going to come out of whatever situation I was in. My faith was hinged to a hope, and that hope were the actions that I took. Number one, I came to a reality in which I didn't lie to myself. I recognized what it was, and I started the process of healing. When I wrote the book Tikvah, I had to disconnect from people. relationships, people around me, the negativity. I had to literally get into my own little cocoon to heal. I didn't heal in public. I didn't heal on social media. I didn't pretend to have it all together. I was broken. I was hurt. And because I recognized it and I didn't play with it, I was able to go within myself and deal with the healing process. Most of you guys think social media is your therapy. It's not. So I healed first. And I took time to deal with me in the quiet of me. The second thing that I did, once I was healed and I felt good about myself and I felt affirming, once I healed, then I had to go through rehab. What was rehab? That means I had to put myself in situations I had to adjust or to build up or to move again, understanding that the injury did happen. I had to heal first. Rehab was painful. Dealing with how others may have felt about me, dealing with what other people thought about me. You used to have the money, now you don't have the money. So what do you do from here? You used to be able to do this, now you can't do this. And people know that you used to be able to do it. And you put yourself in those situations and you learn how to rehab and build yourself back up. Then I had to go through the recovery phase. The recovery phase required me to not only continue to build on the rehab, but to mentally put myself in the situations where I was okay with the process to start all over again. That's when we talk about goals and visions. If I didn't have a vision, the environment around me said this is going to be your reality. But because I had hope, I kept continue to activate my faith. If you give me $1, I'm going to make it two. Now that I got two, I think I can make this four. I'm not moving until I keep going because my eyes are focused. After the recovery phase, you get to the point where now I can try new opportunities and new things. And along the way, your hope increases. Your hope activates your faith. If I didn't have hope for my football injury, I wouldn't have been able to play again. I ended up coming back my senior year and playing. And then I did not want to play football anymore. But I did not let the injury dictate whether or not I was going to play. Some of us have allowed injury to dictate our ability to keep going forward. Some of us allows the injury to take us out the game versus you getting back in the game and then you make a decision whether or not you want to play anymore. That's the difference. Hope will give you the tenacity to stand when no one else can stand. Don't allow the circumstance or situations to dictate your response. That's what happens when you wish things to get better. Hope doesn't respond to the outside environment. It hinges itself to something greater and it continues to pull those things into reality. The hurt, the pain, the dealing with the disruptions or the dismantling. It is hope that you hinge yourself to pull yourself out of. If I didn't make certain decisions in my life and hinge my hope to it, I wouldn't be where I am today. I wouldn't ever be a blessing to the people I've been a blessing to. There are people who I've had the opportunity to get them jobs and employment and hire them. I wouldn't be in a position today if the trauma of yesterday, I stood there and I did not heal. I did not rehab. I did not recover. and I did not keep building, I wouldn't be where I'm at today. And so along the way, as we cover hope and as we go through, the process is simply this. You have to have hope. You have to put your hope forward. You have to activate hope if you plan on moving forward. Let me give you something important to understand. My goal is not to motivate you. My goal is to hopefully inspire you to activate your hope. Motivation is propelled by external stimuli. I don't want to motivate you. This is not about motivating at all. If you've been following me, you listen to my teaching, it may make you feel good. Yeah, I can do this. Oh, hallelujah. Praise the Lord. I'm going to make things happen. Life hurts. Life is one of the biggest bullies that exist. It bullies you. When you want to go forward, it pushes. It has a cosmic way of having this resistance about everything that you want to put in motion in your life. You got to overcome something. You have to move forward. Life is the biggest bully. So, what makes the difference of those individuals who personally in your life have setbacks? You look at their life, they are not where they used to be. They have gone forward. They're doing the things that they wanted to do. It wasn't motivation. They were inspired by something inside themselves to keep going because life will drain you of your motivation. I wasn't motivated to go to rehab. I wasn't motivated to heal. I was driven to transform my life. My goal is to give you tools so that you could inspire yourself to put in the work to make things better, to activate your hope. I can't activate your hope. There's nothing I can do to zap you to have hope because hope requires you to get up and do something. If I didn't have hope, I wouldn't get up. If I didn't have hope that this is touching someone's life who's listening to this, I wouldn't do it. I'm inspired that hopefully someone's going to get it. And somehow, when they get it, a part of me is being paid forward to another generation, to another person, to another family, because it's never been about me. That's the one thing that hope is really great at, is for me to hopefully pass it over to someone else, for them to be inspired to take these tools to move forward and to keep continually creating a cycle where people's lives are being changed. So my ultimate goal is not to motivate you, it's to inspire you. It's to give you something that you have within inside of yourself when the times get hard to keep going. The healing process was a dark process. If you are going through counseling and mental health therapy, you have to deal with all the stuff that's in your head. The good decisions you made, the poor decisions you've made, all the little stuff, you have to deal with it. It is not a very happy place all the time. But if you don't deal with it, you don't heal, right? And then if you don't heal, then you can't rehab. The funny thing about healing and rehab, the doctor tells you everything is fine with you. But the rehab shows you where you're at. And even the recovery process shows where you're at. I remember even when it came to football, it took me a month of practice for me to mentally get myself in a situation where I wasn't pampering the injury that had been healed. The doctor said it was healed. X-ray said it was healed, but I pampered it. And it took me mentally to keep constantly exerting the pressures on it for me to mentally say to myself that it's going to be okay. I am fully healed. How many of us believe in ourselves to be healed, but when that trauma approaches, we pamper it and act like we're not healed, even though there's no indication of injury anymore. Some of us deal with trauma issues, but when tested, we cave and feel we're not healed. We have to work through those elements in our minds, hearts, and our emotions to deal with things better. My goal is not to motivate you, but to give you tools to understand how to strengthen your hope. We have about 30 minutes left. I'm going to cover what really compiles your hope. Last week, I told you that the Hebrew word for hope gives a connotation of a strong cord, or I used the analogy of the rope in old gymnasiums. You could climb up the rope. Those ropes have different other ropes woven in them. Well, the word tikvah means a strong cord, like that rope in the gym. So if you're listening, I'm going to give you some things comprise your hope, fused and formulated. Your hope is comprised of several elements, and I'll give you these in order. One is your material realities, your ability to survive and maintain. If you have a lack of resources, money, food, clothing, shelter, it will impact your hope. Your ability to see or activate it can be impacted by those realities. Okay. So, food, clothing, shelter is very difficult to activate hope at a higher level if you don't have material needs being met. Sometimes you have to have enough hope to go from day to day. But as you seize those days or from moments to moments, there are things I'm going to talk about next week as far as truths that you can put in place so that you can keep building on the strength of your hope. Material realities, food, clothing, shelter, car, transportation, anything that causes you to need to survive in life, if you don't have those things in place, it does have an ability to impact your hope. The other one is your inner self. We talked about that last week. We talked about the spirituality of leadership, but we're talking about your feelings, thoughts, will, emotions, and intellect. Those have an impact on your hope. How you process, how you think, your thoughts, what you do, your disciplines, your ability to say no and say yes will have an impact on how your hope is formulated. Then you have unintended behaviors. Unintended behaviors are the actions and mannerisms that show up as a result of external compulsion or stimuli. How do you respond to the world around you? We talk about having self control, social IQ, emotional intelligence. How do you respond to the world around you will have an impact on your hope, your ability to activate your faith in action. How do you respond to unintended behaviors? Next is intended behaviors. These are actions performed and mannerisms displayed intentionally by an individual. How do you intentionally respond to certain things? How do you deal with the fight or flight mode? How do you deal with the pressures that come into your life? Are you a person that flees? Are you a person that does a woe with me? Are you a person that just grinds it out? Are you a person that succumbs under pressure? You get disappointed real quickly? What are your intended behaviors? These are things that you respond to. Next is your communal interactions. What is your relationship with the people around you? 9 times out of 10, the people around you dictate your ability to activate your hope and your faith. Birds of a feather flock together. We become a product of our environment. The more you adapt and change for your better, 9 times out of 10, your relationships with people will change and adapt in the direction you're going. If you are trying to make certain moves in your life, those relationships you have today will adjust for the relationships you have tomorrow. Oftentimes, you'll find that we spend a lot of time trying to pull people, they don't even see what we see. Remember, we said faith is the substance of things hoped for, evidence of things not seen. Sometimes we are trying to bring people who don't see what we see into our hope. And what ends up happening, they pull us back and they cause us not to believe, right? We talk about the rope. Sometimes when you're trying to climb up and you have hope to hit the top, you have someone down who's looking at you go up saying, hey, that's going to hurt you. Come on back down. Your community, people you spend your time with, your loved ones, your family, your networking groups will reflect what you're trying to become and what you're trying to do. Sometimes it's better that you be by yourself. There is a benefit to having relationships with individuals who believe in moving forward, opportunities, and optimistic. You cannot be around the same individuals and expect for it not to impact your faith and your hope. Okay. Last one, your divine life, your belief in God, mortality, creativity, self actualization, your spiritual life is hinged upon it. At the end of the day, all of these things, your material realities, your abilities for food, water, and shelter, your inner self, your thoughts, your will, your emotions, your intellect, your intended behaviors, your unintended behaviors, your response to the world around you and how you respond to the pressures of life, your community in which you live, your family, your relationships, and how you see yourself in the cosmic world in relationship to God will all impact your hope. If you don't believe in God and it's all on you, what happens when what you're facing is more than you can even activate in your human hope? What if you need a miracle or something that will put you in another place? And right now, your material realities don't give you hope. Your inner self, you're at your lowest of your low. You don't even know where you coming or going. It seems as if everyone around you looks at you as if life is over. And your friends around you tells you to just give up. How do you move forward when all those realities hit? See, in the book, you got to get the book. I talk about human hope has its limitations. Human hope has its limitations. It was my belief in God that allowed me to bridge the gap where the other areas of my life were lacking. Do I have to do the real work? Yes. As much as we depend upon God, God depends upon us to do the work. There was nothing that spoke to my current reality saying, hey, Carl, you can make this happen. No, it was a lot of prayer, a lot of meditation. And even when I didn't feel like getting up, there was something about God that would allow me just to get up and do, just give me one more day. Give us this day our daily bread. Yeah. Sometimes I just needed a slice for me to keep going. But in the midst of getting that slice, I was able to just get more and keep pushing. The way that you fortify your hope and get it bigger is that you put all of these elements and weave them together and it becomes your hope. The strength of your rope depends upon the work that you put in to strengthen each level of these tensions, right? How do I strengthen my material realities? Saving and investment, saving money, changing jobs, and working on your skill set so I can have more resources to take care of my family. How do I deal with my inner self? Discipline. Do I work out? How do I handle my emotional intelligence? Do I listen to negative stuff all the time? Do I vegetate myself on the news that is purposely designed to get me off track about my thought patterns and the vision for my life? Do you think a God vision is controlled by an election? If God gave you a vision for your life, do you think that what he says and what he has promised you is hinged upon an election, a political climate, the economy, whatever the natural realities? And I'm not saying you to ignore it, but do you really think that his vision for your life, do we have to hinge our hope to it and figure out how do we deal with these inner things that we see so that we can move forward to the vision he's called for us in our life? Because if we look at realities and what the report says and what people are saying, and the evidence will always not be there. So you have to be driven by something greater than yourself. How do you deal with your inner feelings? How do you deal with your thoughts, your will, your emotions, your intellect, your disciplines? How do you deal with your intended behaviors? Are you disciplined? Do you have a calendar? Do you have goals? Do you wake up every single day and affirm yourself that you're going to keep going forward and you're going to be great? Or do you get up every single day and plan for your life? Are you like a boat with no paddle, no sail, no map, just out in the sea waiting for a current to take you somewhere? Is that's called wishful thinking. Do you have oars? Do you have a destination? What are your intended behaviors? What are your unintended behaviors? When people tell you no, what inside of you is going to tell you yes? Or do you accept no as a reality? How do you deal with the no's in life? How do you deal when people say no? How do you deal in an economy like today when people are applying for jobs and there's all this stuff? How do you deal with the rejection that you get from emails? Or they say, no, we're not hiring at this time. How do you deal with it? How do you deal when you get ready to interview for a job and you go to the first, second, and third interview and they tell you no? How do you get up when it seems like there's a whole lot of no's and you just need one? I'm gonna end with this story. While I was writing the book Hope, I needed a job that paid me more money at that time. I had more month than money. I had half a month of money and a whole another month to pay for what I needed to pay for. There was a job that I had applied for, and I had an opportunity to interview for that job. Now I had worked the job and I didn't have enough time to take off, but I had this interview for a job. I was living month to month taking care of my daughter. I remember preparing for this interview. I had my suit ready, worked a full day, dressed up, got my nice suit on, and was ready to go. The job interview was 30 minutes away from my job. So I had to drive from my job to the interview. I'm a type of person who believes in being proactive versus reactive. I had planned to leave the interview with an hour left to spare. I could be there to prep myself for my interview because this was a job that was going to change where I was financially. Everything was laid out, plan was in place. I get ready to go to the interview. I got ready to start the car, and the car wouldn't start. I am 30 minutes away from the interview. I have another 30-minute window so that I can prepare. So I have this hour set in place. I put my key in the car and the car didn't turn over. So I'm scrambling. I got to be at this interview. I find someone outside my job and say, hey, can you give me a jump? They say, sure. I put out my jumper cables. Somehow, all of the doors in the car locked with my keys inside. So here I am, keys in the car won't start, doors locked, I can't get into the car. This is a job that would allow me to move forward in my life. I only have a 30-minute window to get to this interview. This interview is a panel interview, a gazillion people in this interview. This is a one-shot deal. Doors locked, can't get in the car, 30-minute window. By the time the jump, etc., I'm at 30 minutes. That means I'm going to be late to the interview. Next thing I know, I'm 15 minutes late to the interview. I have nowhere to call. So I look around my job. I find a brick. I take that brick, bust out my car window, glass all over the floor, hopped in a car, and drove to the interview. Now, in my heart, I knew I had this job. This was my job. I needed this job. I drive 30 minutes to the interview. By this time, I am an hour late to the interview. I pull up to the location and I'm in my suit. There's glass all in my car. I busted the window and I saw this person walking out. I walk up to this person and I said, "Hey," I introduced myself. My name is Carl Perkins. I'm supposed to be here for an interview and something strange happened. My battery didn't turn on. My keys got locked in the car. I had to bust out the window. You can see my busted window here. I just wanted to interview for the position. Do you know if there's anyone there that's waiting for a position? She said, "Hey, I'm part of the panel of people that was supposed to interview you. We were just getting ready to leave. We'll interview you." So I go into this interview. Now, reminder, I busted the window out of the car with a brick, glass everywhere. I'm in my suit. I didn't know that while I'm interviewing, I had literally cut my finger and I had blood dripping all over myself in the midst of this interview. Long story short, I believed that this job was mine. I showed up late. I kept pressing through. Do you know I got that job? I got the job. Not only did I get the job, my perseverance and me activating my hope became how they identified me when they hired me and they gave me the position. The woman who actually said I'm the person interviewed 15 years later, we still have a working relationship. What I'm simply saying to you is this: what you put in your life as hope. I had hope for that job. I activated my faith, even though I felt like they was going to give me a no. I had determined they were going to give me a yes. And while as dysfunctional as that interview appears to be, I maintained calm under pressure and I kept pushing. I went to a complete stranger and told them my story. Hope will put you in a situation where you will do things and try things so that you can move forward. That is your challenge this week. I got the job. I was able to impact the lives of individuals. That moment was a pendulum switch that changed a whole new trajectory in my life because I was willing to keep pushing regardless of how I felt, regardless of how bad the situation is. Think about the times when you quit when you should have kept going. Think about the times when you were halfway up or almost there and someone talked you down. Think about the times you gave up when you should have pressed in. That's going to be your challenge today. This is going to be the challenge this week as we talk about hope. Next week, we're going to talk about some universal principles of hope and how it's created, how it starts, and all the little pieces that comprise your hope. But this week, next week, we're going to actually break down some universal truths about hope, how hope operates in the cosmos. I want you to remember your own story. So when we think about next week, When I talk about how hope is, how it operates, and how you put it into work for yourself, and how you can get the returns from the hope that you have and the hope that you give to others, it's going to be something that you don't want to miss. So thank you guys this week. I hope something will inspire you, that I've given you some tools. Don't quit, don't give up, put your hope into action, and I guarantee you your life will forever be changed. And not only your life is going to be changed, but the lives of others around you will be changed. God bless you guys. I'll see you next week. Appreciate you. Love you. Have a good week. And we'll talk to you later. Bye.